Today we're going to learn how do people modify the land. That means how do people change the land. We've talked about what the land is like in Louisiana. We've talked about what the people are like in Louisiana. Now we're going to talk about how the people change the land to help them survive. Now let's review the geography of Louisiana. We have our physical map here showing us what the land is like. We have hills and forests in the north, and we have swamps and low ground to the south. And it's also colder in the north. So now that we know what the land is like, we can start talking about how people modify the land. Now, to understand this better, let's think of this word adapt. Adapt means to change to fit into your environment. So we learned about some adaptations earlier, but let's look at some more examples. The bus has been coming early, so I adapted by getting up early. I adapted means I changed. Adapt means change. The room was too cold, so I adapted by bringing a sweater. I adapted, I made a change. Adapt means change. The Native Americans adapted to the swamps by building homes out of plants. Plants were the natural resource that they had around them, so that's what they used to build their homes. They adapted means they changed. Now, how is this an example of an adaptation? Now, this is a normal New Orleans home, but notice not all homes need this adaptation. This home is lifted up off the ground. That's to protect it from flooding. In New Orleans, we're close to the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico, so we have to protect ourselves from flooding. That's a way we change or adapt to protect ourselves. Now we're going to talk about ways people modify the land. These are all adaptations people make. We're going to talk about ways people change to survive in the land that they live in. We're not going to talk about things people do for convenience. So sometimes there are things that people want but don't need, like a football stadium. The Superdome is great, but we don't really need it. We're going to talk about ways that people adapt to the land to meet their needs, the things that they need to survive. The first adaptation we're going to talk about is clearing land. Put clear land in the first box under adaptation. Now, the reason people clear land is to build roads, stores, and homes. Use this information to fill in your box. The reason people clear land is to build homes, roads, and stores. Reason is build homes, roads, and stores. Now, we don't need to add this to our chart, but it's important to know that when people clear land, they destroy the plants and animals that live there. That's a very important consequence. All right, let's go to the next adaptation to fill into our chart. The other thing people do is dam rivers. Now, a dam is a wall that blocks a river from flowing. Why do people build dams? This will be in the reason column of your chart. Dams help people control the river. They can stop flooding and store water for drinking. Building this wall means that all this water is stored up and can be used for drinking if they need it. Now, this doesn't need to be added to your chart, but it's still important. When people build dams, fish cannot swim along the river. Again, we start to realize that when people change the land, it also has impacts on plants and animals. The other adaptation people make that you'll add to your chart is build levees. Levees are walls at the edge of the water. Why do people build levees? Well, levees stop floods. But just like everything else, there are consequences. When people build levees, the river cannot flow properly. Although floods are bad for people because they destroy homes, floods can be good for the land because they bring soil to the land and they help water plants. So building levees is good for people but can be bad for the land. Here's a picture of a levee. And sometimes, if levees aren't built well, then they can actually fail and water can still damage homes. This picture shows why levees are important, and strong levees are more important. Now, the next adaptation to add to our chart is building bridges. Why do people build bridges? What's the reason? People build bridges to help people travel. Now think, when people build bridges, they have to clear land to build that bridge and the road. And when people build bridges, they clear land, which means they also destroy the plants and animals that live on that land. So it's important to think about those consequences. Now there's a question on your worksheet, but I want you to skip over that and flip to the other side of your worksheet. And we're going to look at how you would adapt to different changes that might affect your community. So here I have, an urban community with big buildings and lots of people at the edge of a river on the coast by the water. Now, first, to adapt, I'm going to build levees to protect from flooding. That will protect my homes and stop floodwaters from destroying them. Add that to your worksheet. Now we have a new problem that we have to adapt to. The population of our town is growing and we need more room. Okay, so we have to spread out. What do people do when they need more room? They clear land. Clear some land on your map and fill in the blanks under the map. Second, I cleared land to make room for homes. Now, things are always changing. And we have a new problem. People need to get around easier. Look, the two parts of town are on the other side of the river. So I'll make another adaptation. Third, I build a bridge to help people travel. Draw the bridge on your map. Now also draw some homes on the land that you cleared, because that's why people clear land, is to build homes. So draw some homes on your map on that land that you cleared. And then I want you to go back to the front side and answer that writing question underneath your chart. Your chart will help you answer that question. When you finish that, you can move on to your exit ticket, and I'll see you tomorrow.